Guys, welcome back to RBR, and the RSQ8 has seen a facelift, finally looking absolutely gorgeous in its new form. But there are RS cars, and then there are RS Performance cars, Audi's most unhinged series, devoted to more power, more dynamics, and very loud sounds. And this is the latest one, the super SUV RSQ8 Performance, using much of the flavour from the epic RS6 Performance to now claim the throne of the fastest SUV on the Nürburgring. Yes, not a Porsche, not a Lambo, an Audi. With 640 PS, this is Audi's strongest V8 ever, even stronger than the RS6 GT, all thanks to a more free-flowing exhaust, and now we have it in a muscular super SUV. But here's the catch. It's over £140,000. It shares its main components with some of the most desirable super SUVs out there at the moment. And it does that with an interior that is pretty much unchanged from the pre-facelift. So today we'll dive in and check out what's actually new about both the base model facelift and this RSQ8 Performance, and then see how does it actually drive on the road, because the last time I drove the RSQ8, it left me a little bit cold, thinking, why would you bother with this over an RS6? Let's see if this one, the most super powered SUV from Audi, can change my mind. Let's dive in to the new RSQ8 Performance. Guys, today's episode is sponsored by Incogni, and if you are someone who's private like I am, then what I'm going to tell you today is just going to be a huge boon to your life going forward. In our current modern digital world, every single digital experience we have, whether that's using apps, scrolling on social media, using a website, all of these things are trying to gather and collect our personal data, our locations, everything that they can about us. But what you might not realize is that there is an entire industry profiting from our data. And they're called data brokers, and they're not just annoying, they are actually dangerous. These data brokers gather everything they can from your name, your address, your financial records, your court records, phone number, email, but what's worse is there's not a few of them, there's literally hundreds of them doing this. And if you're in the USA, it's even worse. There are people search websites, I won't name them because I don't want anyone to use them, where you can literally find out where someone lives, find out the names of people's families. And this is not fear-mongering. This has happened to people where stalkers have found them, or someone in a road rage incident has decided to find where someone lives. It's absolutely crazy that this information is just freely available out there. Now, the thing is, you can legally force these people to get rid of your data, but the catch here is there's over 200 of them. So doing each one by yourself, one at a time, is going to take hundreds of hours. And that is where Incogni steps in and does the whole thing for you. I signed up a few months ago and I was just shocked how many websites, sites that I've never even heard of, places that I've never even heard of, had my data. Incogni's been working on it and we've gotten rid of 120 so far out of 127. And it happened really quick. They send out these legal takedown requests and literally within the first week, they started knocking these out. And that's what I love about this. I don't have to lift a finger at all. They will do everything. I get like weekly updates. And if you go for their unlimited plan, then you can point out websites or places that you yourself feel might have your data and let them handle it as well. The more of your data that's out there, the more chance of it being in a data breach or a call scam ring or an identity theft ring, and they give you a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you can actually test it and see whether they're going to do what they say they will. And of course, as an RBR viewer, I've got you a great discount. Just head over to incogni.com/remove or use my code remove and you will get 60% off their annual plan. So that's 60% off for RBR viewers, which is great. Guys, remove your data before you race. A huge thanks to Incogni for supporting RBR and for you guys for supporting our regular sponsors. Let's get back to the car. So guys, our RSQ8 facelift now comes in two trims. First, our standard one starting at £125,000, and then our RSQ8 Performance starting at £140,000, again with three separate trims. Now, the design been quite upgraded here in the facelift. I love all of the changes that they've done here. It all starts in the front end, which is looking much more RS6 Performance than ever before, which is great because RS6 to me, flagship of Audi Sport. You can really see that with the blades on each corner of your air intakes on the side here, finished here in matte carbon, which looks absolutely gorgeous. You've got your new hexagonal shaped grille, and within there, the new flatter modern Audi rings in there looking really great. And then you can see the matte carbon effect around there in our carbon black and raw sprung editions here of the RSQ8 Performance, looking absolutely epic against the metallic blue paintwork. Really, that whole front end just looking so much more open and aggressive than it did before. Really, really RS6 from a lot of angles, I think. And then of course Audi being so great with their lights. We've got a new headlight cluster here with, as with all modern Audis, 5 differentiated DRLs that you can choose from the inside of the cabin. And the same story then on the rear, where you have a new light bar with, again, 5 different DRL choices on there. This light bar is made up of OLEDs and looks absolutely stunning, whether it's day or nighttime. But better than that is the rear diffuser, which is now framing the exhaust even better than before, particularly with our carbon around the rear end here. You've got the red light reflector inspired by F1 in the middle of that diffuser, just like all the top level Audi sport cars we've seen recently. And then the nicest part of the RSQ8 carbon black is that carbon strip on the boot lid, and housed within there the new Audi rings on the back. That just looks fantastic. Badging a little bit confusing here. They've got the new badges on the outside of the car denoting the RSQ8, but on the inside they're using some of the old RS style logos. So this car really in between two worlds, of the old Audi world and the new Audi world, and you'll see that in a lot of parts of this car. And then finally, the wheels really finish both off with our base level getting the brand new 6-spoke Y wheels, which look absolutely incredible, particularly in that new bronze finish. And then the others, which are the lightest, you will recognize both from the RS6 Performance and the RS4 and 5 competition. These are the 5-spoke Y-shaped lighter wheels, the forged wheels, which are 5 kg lighter per corner, really open, allowing more cooling for the brakes as well, but they look incredible. That just finishing off what is Audi's most aggressive and muscular looking super SUV to date. Truly looking like a big RS6. The inside of the car is probably the biggest disappointment, like I said, because this is old Audi now. It's not the new swanky Android-based operating system that we see, for example, in the new A5 and the new A6. This is the old 2-screen setup where the MMI has barely changed. The only good thing about it is that, unlike the new one, your Audi virtual cockpit still has those wonderful driving zones, all RS focus, where you can choose the content that you see on there, which you don't get in the current Audi cars, and that is still a great part of this system. And then in the Performance, you get the RS Design Pack, or the RS Design Pack Plus, which highlights various parts of the stitch and the car's design on the inside with either red, like we have in our car today, grey, or the specific performance option of blue, which looks fantastic. And our Performance gets the lovely matte carbon fibre here on the inside as well, matching the exterior. And the other saving grace is this steering wheel. Oh, Audi steering wheel, I missed you. I hate that new one. It's absolutely ugly and flat, but you, I'm sorry about all the bad things I said about you before. You're beautiful and we wish you could have you back. Jokes aside, I do miss this steering wheel, and I miss the round one more. This one's still so much more exciting, and it's got at least 3D Audi logos. It's got something going on. Endears me to it, versus that new one with the flat airbag, which is just awful. Now, in terms of performance, the drivetrain is pretty much the same as before. We look at our base model, you've still got 600 PS, you've got 800 Newton meters, and 60 is reached within 3.8 seconds. But our RSQ8 Performance gets a big upgrade. 40 PS more, 50 Newton meters more, so a total of 640 PS, 850 Newton meters, and a quicker sprint to 60 of 3.6 seconds. Now, that is still thanks to the wonderful V8 twin turbo engine, which has been boosted by now a lighter exhaust system, which has reduced back pressure, reduced muffling effects, so better V8 acoustics. They've also stripped out, like their other performance models and the GT, the sound insulation, so you allow more of that V8 emotion into the interior, not just for the weight saving element, but like I said, for the emotion. Listen to this thing bark in RS2 mode. The rest of the architecture is pretty much the same, so we've got the 8-speed torque converter configured for quicker shifts. We have Audi Sport Quattro system with a 40-60 split to the rear, maximum 85% going to the rear. In terms of suspension, we have the adaptive air suspension, which varies its levels based on the mode that you are in. And also an electronic anti-roll stabilization system, or EAWS as they call it, which can decouple the anti-roll bars to allow for more comfort over more rougher terrain, and then re-engage them for better rigidity when you want to drive more dynamically. And then finally, we have rear wheel steering as standard, and you have carbon ceramic brakes as well, in a choice of either red like we have in our car today, grey, or the Audi Sport Blue. So all in all, the RSQ8 Performance is 50 kg lighter, and these changes have allowed it to regain the title of the quickest SUV, or the super SUV of the Nürburgring, at 7:36, taking it away from the Cayenne Turbo GT. And that's important for this car because it shares, like I said, a ton of components, pretty much all the main ones, with various Cayenne V8s. It doesn't only share it with those, it also shares it with, for example, the Bentayga V8s, which then have a different purpose, but a pretty similar output in the speed. And then the most famous comparison is, of course, with Lamborghini's Urus, which is more disadvantaged, I think, than this car, because that pretty much shares Audi software, even an Audi-shaped steering wheel in there as well. VAR Group's companies have always been an incestuous bunch, sharing so many components and parts, platforms, but none more so than these V8 SUVs, with so many different price points, so many different purposes, all using the same components. Despite that, Audi Sport have clawed their way to the top, at least in terms of accolades versus the less pure Cayenne Turbo e-hybrid, and of course Lamborghini not setting a time, this being quite close to the Urus in terms of performance, but so much cheaper. But then, to be fair, we know that the Urus holds its value. We know that Porsches, generally speaking, hold their value as well. And then you have the threat from in-house with the highly sought after RS6 Performance as well, which is why we need to drive this car. We need to understand what changes have been made to the RSQ8 Performance. Has that X factor that was missing the last time I drove it, is it back in here? Can it justify its existence versus so many great estates and so many other great SUVs just within group? Let's drive it and find out. Now, the great thing about the first 100 yards in this RSQ8 Performance is you get such a pronounced V8 symphony, not just coming from the exhaust, but directly from the engine area. And it's just so reminiscent of the RS6 Performance, the RS6 GT, the RS5 competition and the RS4 competition, in that you get such presence of the engine itself surrounding you all the time, whether you're driving fast or slow. And it really amplifies the whole experience that you are in truly a special version of an Audi sport car. And it's so great because it puts you on notice that I'm not a standard RSQ8, I am something different. So I love that as a first introduction to the car. Now, given the speed claims being made here, let's start off with the launch control. It's so important to have bragging rights in a car like this. Let's see how it does. Oh, that is quick. 3.4 seconds to 60, 0.2 quicker than the official figures, and man, it really feels it because of how quick the Sport Quattro system gains traction and sends this blue missile hurtling down the road. So quick. If you've ever driven anything like the Turbo GT or any of the Uruses, this feels right from the same family. Insane amounts of speed and G-force, and it does really it takes your breath away, this car. So if you had any doubts about speed, which of course you wouldn't, not at this side of the market, just rest assured that this feels as quick as any Porsche or Lamborghini on the road. There's always a little bit of hesitancy from the V8, even though it's a hot V setup, but it's nice to have that analog, not immediate, not EV boosted feel from this. I know this is a slight mild hybrid, but it's nothing like, Audi's recent Hybrid Plus cars, where the initial boost is almost like EV-like, and I'm beginning to appreciate these older, more analog engines a bit more in recent times because of that. I don't need immediate power all the time. It's sometimes nice to have a bit of a delay and then get shot back into your seat when the engine wants to. But it's a great engine. It sounds, the sound. Let's talk about the sound. It sounds incredible. This is one of the main complaints I had about the original RSQ8, that particular generation in those years, they removed a lot of the pops and bangs, and it just wasn't exciting enough. Whereas this, it's so easy to play the music, and there's so much of it this new freer flowing exhaust system with less muffling, it just makes it an absolute joy to drive. Not just fast, but downshifting, coming off the throttle, and just the V8 rumble itself. It adds so much to the experience. I love it. I love that element of this car. And to me, this kind of childish side to this car never ever gets old. Then we come to the more serious stuff. So that's great. Speed and sound exactly where I want it to be for this ilk of car. You know, trying to chase the higher echelon of super SUVs. Let's start with what's good first, and what's great is the body roll is very well controlled in this tall and quite large car, which is all thanks to that 48 volt anti-roll system, and that works perfectly. The issue for me comes in steering, where there's just a certain lack of feel, and that was in the previous car as well, but it's not something that you often liken to the performance or competition version of the Audi sport cars. And this has that lack of kind of feedback and feeling, particularly when you're going turn to turn. Yes, while an experienced driver will be able to get around that and achieve an incredible Nürburgring time, it doesn't feel, you know, as responsive or as rewarding in terms of steering feel as the Porsche does or as the Lamborghini does. What helps negate that lack of feedback is having the standard fit rear wheel steering, which then helps the car turn a bit lean out with most rear wheel steering systems. That then paired with how good the anti-roll is, it gives you a lot of confidence to make this thing go faster. Then you're like, okay, no doubt it did achieve that Nürburgring time. So yes, despite the lack of steering feedback, I think a very impressive car in terms of the handling dynamics, almost like a level below in class, feeling that much smaller the faster you go. And boy, you do go just so fast thanks to this engine. The other good thing about that anti-roll stabilization is that when you go into a comfort setting, it can decouple those anti-roll elements and then allow the wheels to move a bit more freely. It still leaves this car pretty harsh. It still feels very much like a super SUV, but it helps negate some of that horrible bouncy feeling. Now, one of the comparisons I do want to make is with the previous RSQ8, which left me cold last time. I didn't think it had enough emotion to justify itself versus more emotional cars like the GLE 63, like the Urus, like the Porsche variants as well. This car, with its little 10% differences and the massaging done by Audi Sport to make it performance, just makes it feel like a different car. I think a lot of the reason I love it personally is the sound and the looks of this thing, which I think are just so far ahead of the previous version and really make it feel special. And of course you get that in the standard RSQ8 as well, but I think at this level you want the sound, you want the drama to go along with that. So definitely head and shoulders above the standard previous version of the car. Now versus Urus, from the Uruses that I've driven, and I've tried to drive more, and Lamborghini's press department are slow. Let's just put it that way in the politest way possible. From the ones I've driven, that is a very dynamic car. Steering is, I think, marginally better. It feels quick. It's very dramatic in terms of sound and emotion, which is great. This doesn't feel a million miles away, particularly thanks to the fact that the Urus is so disadvantaged by having the same interior. But I get why people gravitate towards that car, particularly because of the values and being able to sell it for overs, etc., and the badge, of course. But this car does acquit itself well. All of us who are in the know have always called the Urus a glorified RSQ8, and it's never been truer than if you compare it to this performance. But for me, the more interesting comparison to be made is actually with Porsche's Cayenne, because this car kind of fills the gap of the purer previous Turbo GT, which we don't get in Europe anymore, being a more powerful and track-driven version of that particular V8, which is great, but then it also falls into the same pitfalls as that car. And there's one car in particular that makes me question both of them, and that is the Cayenne GTS, which uses the same V8. Yes, it's less power, but a very dynamic car regardless, using the same V8 engine, the same emotion, and 40 to 50k cheaper starting price. It's just a difficult one then to look at this car and really just, or in fact, to look at any of those VAR Group V8s in terms of pure performance and say, well, you should get those instead of this, because the Cayenne GTS is such a complete car for me, one of my favorite performance SUVs out there. But if you really crave power and those bragging rights, then there's no discussion to be had. And what can't be doubted is the ability of the RSQ8 Performance. This is the car that's now the driver's choice, having a purer formula than the Porsche at a much more affordable price point than the Lamborghini. But see, that only makes so much sense, because if a purer car is your thing, then the RS6 Performance literally exists. It's as powerful, it's more dynamic, it's got the legendary status of that car, everybody wants it. It's the more logical choice. But then, to be fair, when has logic ever come into the decision process of buying a super SUV? Let's face it, the person buying this is either a cuzzy bro looking for high street clout, or someone who has convinced themselves that SUVs are somehow more practical than estate cars. And the priorities for that group of buyers is different. They want braggable performance, they want pleasurable noises, they want aggressive looks, and to have it all from a towering position. And while that's all such a weird mix, it's what has helped make this part of the market so lucrative for so many manufacturers. And in that light, you can't really fault the RSQ8, because it's earned its performance accolades at the ring. It sounds so much better than it ever did, and to my eyes, it's one of the best looking SUVs out there at the moment. Really, I think making the Porsche look a bit basic and the Lambo quite garish. Personally, I'd have the RS6 Performance, but that's just me because I love estates. But if you bought this over the Lamborghini or any of the others, I'd probably pat you on the back. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of RBR. If you have, please do like and subscribe as always. And I'll see you next time, probably in the RS6 Performance. See ya.